Images of Mexico City are taco vendors, the Angel of Independence Monument, and Volkswagen Beetle taxis. But in a bid to clean up the air, the city government is banning these polluting vehicles, and this iconic site will be gone by 2012.
If we go back to the 1980s or 1990s, almost 80% taxis in Mexico City were Volkswagen Beetles. And they were the most usual symbol of public transport.
Mexico and the bug, nicknamed Vocho, have been intertwined for half a century when production of the cars started here in the 1950s. The VW's cheap price of around $6,000 made the Beetle one of the most popular cars in Mexico. But the small engine is virtually unchanged from the original 1930s model. It emits many more pollutants than newer designs of cars, even with the catalytic converter upgrade in 1991 to control polluting emissions. Low gas mileage and lack of features like airbags are other concerns. Also,
many people began to be kidnapped on Volkswagen Beetle taxis, and it began to be a big problem.
The phase-out of the Vochos began in 2002 on the mayor's decree that taxis could not be older than 10 years or have only 2 doors. This gave the VW taxi drivers, known as taxistas, a decade to switch to new 4-door cars.
What was the result of that? Sales of the Volkswagen Beetle fell down, and since in the previous years, 2002 and before, Volkswagen sold about more than 40,000 Beetles a year. The last year, they sold only 10,000.
The decline in sales led to the last bug produced in Mexico in July 2003 and the closing of the Puebla plant. Taxis now here in the city number around 100,000 and are a mix of the old Vochos and more modern sedans. The taxistas have 2 years before they need to either turn in their Beetle to the government for a cash payment of around $1,250 or else keep the car for personal use. The ban on driving a bug is only for taxis, not for private cars.
Mi nombre es Gerardo Beristain. Llevo 4 años en el oficio de taxi.
Gerardo says he feels sentimental about his Vocho, but says when it's time to give it up, he'll sell it. But says he spends more time in the car than with his family. Yes, he says, I'm very sad.
These taxis used to be painted green, but last year they were painted these colors to celebrate the bicentennial.
The green and gray color scheme lasted about more than 10 years. The green and gray taxis became an international icon for Mexico City. Last year, the government made a contest to choose a new color scheme. The one that won was the current one, which is gold and wine red.
It's really rare to see the green and white taxi cabs anymore. I was lucky I found this one here on the street behind me, but it looks like they ripped off all the taxi signs and now it's just used as a regular vehicle. This is something Raul Molina says he'll do. He's been a taxi driver for 30 years and has had his current Vocho for 11. He wants to keep it for personal use. He'll continue to be a taxi driver though, possibly, he says, in a Nissan.